Hey guys, here's our Hellblade 2 review. Alex and OJ played the original game, so I had Alex review that. Our angry reviews we're working on are up first is X Defiant, our first free-to-play game that we're doing a full angry review on. And then we have multiverses that I think we're going to do. You know, my boy Soups is in that game. So stay tuned for some upcoming reviews, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Check it out.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another rapid fire review, this time for Ninja Theory's Hellblade 2. Now, 2017's Hellblade 1 came out kind of out of nowhere and really surprised us with its quality and its innovation. Totally new IP with an incredible narrative set in a rich fantasy world with atmosphere thick enough to spread on toast, and incorporated what would be the industry best sound design and voice acting. The game had creative enough puzzle design that played with the character's perspective, and the combat was present. It was just very basic. Just a small handful of moves, and there were a few enemy types and fewer bosses to speak of. But overall, I was thoroughly impressed with my 7 to 8 hour playthrough from a smaller studio and at the $30 price tag. But now Ninja Theory's got that Microsoft money. They've upgraded to Unreal 5, they're charging $50 instead of $30, and that reveal trailer they put out a few years back with the Viking medal was incredible. So I was expecting a bigger, better sequel. So let's talk about how they did. Alright, the good. This game, right from the start, is just gorgeous. Even on the NVIDIA 20 series I played the game on, it was so impressive. The varied and distinct environments, the weather changes, the movements of water and fire, all incredible. And most of the facial animations look absolutely amazing. Without the horrid, uncanny valley feeling, the eyes and the faces moved with the conversations and change in emotions. The level design here isn't just walking around the picturesque Icelandic countryside, though there's an awful lot of that. There are mystical fantasy places with ever-changing pathways, flooded cave systems, villages filled with dismembered corpses, some of them flayed, some of them not upon. There's Draugr encampments in the middle of their blood rituals filled with fire and smoke, and again, quite the buffet of body parts. Again, this game is a looker. The sound design here is every bit as good as last time. The Furies still live in Senua's head, partially narrating the story, praising her, demeaning her, and even providing hints and hinders along the way.
We can't stay here. I'm too cold. Let's climb. Don't think about the pain. Use your mind.
This game really has to be experienced with headphones. Environmental noises really set the stage for the entire experience. As you walk down the beaches and see the bloated corpses, you can pick out which ones are whispering to you, or demanding to know why you didn't save them. The narrative for the game is just as interesting as last time as well. A brief no-spoiler summary is she kind of battled her way to Helheim and confronted her demons, but now she's back. But her lands are still plagued by the Northmen. They raid, they slaughter, they sacrifice, and enslave her people. She starts off this game bound on a boat headed to the Northmen's land. She's allowed herself to be captured as a slave in order to find out where her people have been taken to, and to stop the slavers for good. She discovers the land is not only plagued by human slaver assholes, but bloodthirsty undead Draugr and giants, and she's got to fight them all. I enjoyed the overall story quite a bit, at least on paper. The land we find ourselves in is pretty much a massive collection of corpse piles we travel to. The Draugr and the giants are wholesale slaughtering people, and we have to fight and puzzle solve our way through it. As we hit the game's climax, Senua is forced into exploring a hidden and flooded cave system. It's dark and filled with puzzles and ambushes, and the payoff is good. If you like the movie The Descent like I did, I think that you'll really enjoy this part. We make our way through and we find exactly what we need, and we use that information to defeat the giant in a big emotion-filled cinematic, and it feels like our journey is complete. The problem is the game is only 2/3 over. The story continues, which makes a lot of sense as we haven't accomplished any of the goals we set out to complete, and I was initially excited as that last segment was really good stuff. And I assumed we would continue the story in that same impactful way. But the story and the gameplay here just kind of limped forward. important thing happens for the rest of the game, but nothing ever came close to the previous grandeur. The next two portions come and go with little fuss. You walk to the place, you get to the place, you don't have to endure any ordeals or really work for the information you need to dispatch the giant, and then it's over. It felt like we were racing towards the end of the game, like we ran out of development money or time. In the end, we resolved everything pretty neatly, and then it was over. All in about 5 hours and 30 minutes. 2 hours shorter than the last game. On the gameplay side, when there is gameplay, it's broken into puzzle sections, giant encounters, and then some combat. The puzzle portions here are about as good as the last game. There's perspective puzzles where you'll have to line up objects to form runes to break their barriers, and then there's more complex level-altering puzzles where you can activate switches and have the environment drastically change to get to where you need to go. It's clever stuff, but nothing here is as deep as something like the Talos Principle or another dedicated puzzle game, but I still think people will enjoy them. Combat, on the other hand, it just isn't very good. In the first game, the combat system was already too basic, and instead of fleshing it out and attempting to elevate the gameplay to the quality level of the narrative, they instead pared it down even more. They remove attack types, they remove complexity, they remove the ability to fight multiple enemies, and there are no more boss fights. So all we're left with is off-center 1v1 duels. You'll fight anywhere from 2 to 15 enemies that will fight you one-on-one. Sometimes that's explained due to other allies on screen fighting, but most of the time they're just patiently queued up off-screen like polite Brits, waiting for the person who's in front of them to die, and then they sneak up on you and jump on Senua's back. She dispatches them using the same dodge a few times, attack a few times formula, and then another one jumps on her back. You can tell that they wanted to make these fight scenes feel cinematic, with the scripted scenes before the fight and just after the fight, when she slashes and impales each foe. And those specific bits are more cinematic. The problem is the entire time where I, as the player, am partaking in the game portion of the video game, it's just awful. These combat segments often overstay their welcome. The fights aren't evolving in any meaningful way throughout the game, and to be honest, there's not much, if any, difficulty to them. I felt like I was playing a game on journalist difficulty story mode. The boss encounters are really no better. They're mostly cinematic encounters of moving from cover to cover, avoiding the element the giant represents. The impact of these events are entirely from the narration, and like the rest of the narration, is very effective. It's really good stuff. But again, I feel like my inputs as the player of this video game do not matter in the slightest. The timings are generous. There's nothing to adapt to. There's no difficulty to it. And if it had just been a cutscene without my inputs, it would have probably been better. I was a fan of the storytelling and narrative of the first game, so I was willing to overlook the lack of gameplay substance because of its overabundance of storytelling style. But in the sequel, for them to reduce the already paltry gameplay offering is absolutely baffling. The best thing you get to do as a player is explore the few places they allow you to explore. The puzzles are standard, the bosses should have been cutscenes, and the fights are only memorable for bad reasons. The majority of the 5.5 hour experience, where you can even have the ability to do anything, you'll simply be holding forward to walk to the next cutscene. I give them a ton of credit for how the game looks and sounds, and for keeping up with the excellent quality writing. The story in this story-driven game is quite good, and it could have been a pretty good 3 to 4 hour, slightly interactive movie. And if that's all you're looking for, I think you will absolutely love Hellblade 2. But I feel a little bit let down on the gameplay side and overall length. Even if gameplay is not the focus, it's an important aspect, and they really drop the ball on it. There is the opportunity to replay the game with different narrators, which is neat, but not neat enough to make up for the lack of content. Sure, this is included with Game Pass, but other people did pay $50 for it. If the first game is an 8 out of 10, then this one has to be lower. It's more expensive while being shorter, and I think it's a step back in gameplay. But it does provide an incredible story, all while looking amazing. So I'm going to give it a 7. I do think it's a good game, but you should definitely check this one out on Game Pass if you have the chance. Thanks so much for watching this rapid fire review. The next one I'm going to be doing is for Shadow of the Erd Tree, which I'm pretty excited for. So I shall see you then on the next Angry Joe Show.